We are actively skipping the hyper-obvious list fillers today. Instead, let's look at the absolute gold mines, where a single match scales from Stone Age clubs to futuristic laser-firing bipedal mechs. This is the definitive cut of legendary real-time strategy games. First up, we have Cossacks 3, which is basically what happens when a developer looks at other RTS games and goes, why does everyone cap out at like 200 units? The developers went, hold my beer, and allowed players to field armies in the thousands here, literally thousands, and the game just handles it. It's not pretty micro, it's not about babysitting every unit, it's about mass. Formations actually matter too. You can line up your musketeers and watch them volley fire in ranks like actual 18th century warfare, which honestly is kind of mesmerizing to watch, even when you're losing. Each of the 17 nations plays a little different unit rosters, different bonuses, so it's not just reskinned armies. The economy side is deceptively deep as well. You're juggling like 5 or 6 resources at once. And look, the AI can get a bit numbers heavy. It'll just throw bodies at you sometimes. But when two massive armies collide and the screen turns into this chaotic wall of gunpowder smoke, that's the whole appeal, right? It's mass warfare simulation dressed up as an RTS.
Hell, it's about time.
While StarCraft used to be the middle name of a few elite Korean pro players, Wings of Liberty is the one that took that Brood War obsession and dragged it into a new era. And once you play it, you get why Korea adopted it just as hard. Every race feels completely different to pilot. Terran turtles up, drops mules, splits its army into little squads. Zerg is constant swarm pressure, always creeping, always expanding, never really safe. Protoss is just deathball energy, high-tech units that hit like trucks but cost a fortune. That same macro-micro split that built the old Korean scene is still brutal here, managing economy and army at once, and Blizzard tuned the counters tightly enough that basically every fight has an answer if you are paying attention. No surprise GSL picked this up almost instantly. The campaign does not just coast on multiplayer balance either. Missions throw genuinely weird curveballs, lava tides, zombie infestations. It will humble you, but the skill ceiling is basically endless, exactly why Korean tournaments still draw real crowds today. Age of Empires 2 is one of those games where like everyone has a story about it. Whether that's the tower rush somebody pulled on you in 2001 or having fun with Photon Man. The definitive edition cleaned up the visuals, but kept the bones the same, and thank God for that, because those bones are basically perfect. 30 plus civilizations now, each with genuinely distinct tech trees, unique units, unique bonuses, so a Mongol rush plays nothing like a Byzantine turtle strategy. The age progression, dark to feudal to castle to imperial, gives every match this natural escalation. You start with villagers punching sheep and end with trebuchets flattening stone walls. Villager management is basically its own skill tree. Honestly, idle villagers quietly tank your economy if you're not watching. And the campaigns, narrated history lessons wrapped around actual missions, still hold up. It's not flashy anymore by today's standards, but the design underneath is rock solid. That's why it's still the default answer whenever someone asks what RTS to start with. Warcraft 3 did something kinda sneaky. It took RPG mechanics and just grafted them onto an RTS chassis. Your hero units level up, they carry items, they've got mana bars and spell cooldowns, so half your early game is spent creeping neutral camps for loot before you even think about attacking anyone. Now, yeah, Frozen Throne is the more balanced, more competitively refined version. That's not up for debate. But Reign of Chaos is where this formula actually lands fresh. It's the base game, before the meta got optimized down to a science. And it's got the complete Arthas arc, start to finish, without needing a sequel to close it out. 4 factions, humans, orcs, undead, night elves, each with a distinct identity. Undead raising the dead from corpses, night elves shifting buildings in and out of the ground. And look, we can't talk about Warcraft 3 without mentioning the custom map scene basically birthed the MOBA genre out of a mod. That's a wild legacy to carry, and Reign of Chaos is where it all started.
Apparently, just moments ago, there was an accident.
As long as there's Tiberium on Earth,
not as a serious threat.
Tiberium Wars is what happens when Command & Conquer gets its groove back after a rough stretch. It's fast, it's aggressive, base building here is snappy, you're expanding and pumping out units way quicker than in most other RTS games of the era. 3 factions, GDI's your straightforward military might, Nods all stealth and hit-and-run tactics, and then the Skrin show up as this alien third faction with tech that just feels genuinely different to control. The Tiberium resource itself is dangerous to be near, so there's this constant tension of greeding for economy versus keeping your units safe. And honestly, the full-motion video cutscenes deserve a mention. Real actors, campy dialogue, it's self-aware in a way that's actually charming rather than embarrassing. Missions escalate at a good clip, too. Nothing overstays its welcome. The multiplayer is built around quick, decisive engagements rather than long, grinding stalemates, keeping matches feeling tense throughout. It's not the deepest RTS here, but it might be one of the most purely fun to just pick up and play. Supreme Commander operates on a completely different scale than basically everything else here, and once you zoom that strategic camera all the way out, watching hundreds of units move like ants across a battlefield the size of a small country, you get it immediately. This is a game about economy snowballing, mass and energy income compounding over time until you can afford these absurd experimental units, walking death machines the size of small cities. The armored command unit mechanic is genuinely clever too. Your commander is both your most powerful unit and your single point of failure. Lose it and the game's over instantly. So there's this constant risk calculation around how aggressively to use it. 3 factions, UEF, Cybran, Aeon, each with a distinct philosophy, brute force versus stealth versus energy weapons. Games can run long, sometimes over an hour, and that's kind of the point, a slow burn escalation rather than an early rush fest. It rewards patience and long-term planning over twitch reflexes, which makes it one of the more cerebral RTS games on this whole list.
Strategic launch detected.
Try not to disappoint us.
Age of Mythology took the Age of Empires formula and bolted Mythology onto it, and somehow that combination just works incredibly well. You're not just training soldiers, you're calling down lightning bolts, summoning minotaurs, raising literal giants to smash through enemy walls, and choosing which god to worship shapes your entire strategy from minute 1. The Retold version rebuilt everything visually, but smartly didn't mess with the core design. Mixing human soldiers with mythological creatures still creates these wonderfully chaotic battles where a squad of hoplites is fighting alongside a cyclops. Each civilization, Greek, Egyptian, Norse, Atlantean, worships different gods with completely different god powers, so your strategy shifts depending on which pantheon you pick. Hero units exist specifically to counter monsters, which adds this nice rock-paper-scissors layer on top of the usual unit counters. The campaign leans fully into its mythological setting too, no shame about it, gods and titans and all. It's got a lighter, more fantastical tone than most RTS games on this list, and that variety is honestly a big part of the appeal.
Yes, sir. Right away. Initiate bombing run. Reporting in.
Empire at War does something most RTS games don't even attempt. It stitches galactic conquest and tactical battles into one continuous experience. You've got this galaxy map where you're deciding which planets to invade, which fleets to move where, basically playing strategic chess across the whole Star Wars galaxy. And then, when battles actually happen, you drop into proper tactical fights, either on the ground or, and this is the good part, in space, watching Star Destroyers and Rebel cruisers trade broadsides while fighters weave between the wreckage. That space combat is genuinely the highlight. Capital ships feel appropriately massive and slow, fighters feel fast and fragile, it's got real scale to it. The Gold Pack bundles in the Forces of Corruption expansion too, adding Zan Consortium as a third faction. All criminal underworld tactics, bounty hunters, that kind of thing. Iconic units are all here. Star Destroyers, X-Wings, AT-ATs stomping across snow, and they feel true to how they behave on screen. It's not the deepest strategy game mechanically, but the fantasy of commanding these fleets is basically unmatched.
All too easy.
Homeworld is still one of the only RTS games that actually commits to full three-dimensional space, and that decision alone makes it play unlike anything else on this list. You're not just moving units left and right on flat ground, you're rotating your whole formation, thinking in 3 axes, positioning fighters above and below capital ships to avoid getting caught in crossfire. It takes some getting used to. The camera can feel disorienting at first, but once it clicks, fleet positioning becomes a genuinely tactical puzzle rather than just a numbers game. The bigger hook, though, is persistence. Your fleet carries over between missions, so every ship you lose is gone for good, turning each battle into something with real weight. You start actually caring about your surviving veterans. The story follows a displaced species searching for a lost homeworld, told mostly through mood and atmosphere rather than heavy exposition, this melancholy tone running underneath everything. The remaster cleaned up visuals without touching what made the original special. It's slower, more atmospheric than most RTS games, and that's the point. Dark Crusade took the Dawn of War formula and wrapped a proper conquest campaign around it, letting you pick from 7 different factions and fight over a territory map where every planet you capture opens up new bonuses and unit unlocks. That structure alone gives it way more replay value than the base game had. Combat itself is aggressive and grounded. Cover matters a lot here. Units hunker down behind rubble and return fire, so positioning actually changes fight outcomes rather than just raw numbers colliding. Squad-based units mean losses feel gradual too. You're reinforcing depleted squads rather than losing individual guys one at a time, which keeps the pace fast without feeling disposable. Each faction plays with real personality. Orcs are chaotic melee swarms, Tau lean entirely on ranged firepower and mobility, Necrons just don't stay dead. Base buildings stripped down compared to Age of Empires, fewer buildings, faster games, more focus on the actual fighting. It's a great entry point into the Warhammer 40k universe too, even if you've never touched the tabletop game it's built on. Stronghold Crusader Definitive Edition is what happens when a studio goes back and actually rebuilds a classic instead of slapping a higher resolution on it. Same core loop as the original, castle building on one side, granular economy management on the other, but the maps are now 4 times bigger, giving sieges way more room to develop before armies collide. New playable units get added too, Bedouin warriors with their own quirks, shaking up the usual go-to garrison compositions a bit. The AI Lord roster keeps growing as well, new commanders with their own castle layouts and personalities layered on top of the classic cast. Co-op is the bigger structural addition though, a full campaign built around 2 players sharing 1 economy and 1 defense, which the original never really supported. And if you want to build your own sieges, there is now a proper castle and lord editor through Steam Workshop. It is a genuine ground-up rebuild. Remastered art, remastered score, same voice cast, and it still nails that desert siege warfare feeling. Battle for Middle-earth 2 leans hard into being cinematic, and it mostly earns that, honestly. Hero units from the books and films, Aragorn, Gandalf, the Witch King, actually feel powerful on the battlefield, capable of turning a losing fight around single-handedly if you position them right. Combat has this real sense of scale to it. Armies clash across open fields with genuine chaos, and the sound design, all those horn blasts and battle cries, sells the fantasy completely. 4 playable factions in the base campaign, expanded further with good and evil sides each getting their own storyline, so you're not just replaying the same war twice, the perspectives actually diverge. Base building takes a back seat compared to something like Age of Empires, resources are simpler, and that's intentional, keeping focus squarely on the actual battles. Ring heroes add a fun risk-reward layer too. Wielding the one ring makes a hero absurdly strong, but corrupts them the longer they hold it. It's less mechanically deep than some entries here, sure, but as a Tolkien power fantasy, it delivers. Rise of Nations basically asks, what if Civilization and a traditional RTS had a baby? And somehow that combination works beautifully. You're progressing through 8 full ages, from ancient all the way to information, and every era shift changes your available units, your buildings, even how your economy functions. Borders are the standout mechanic here. Territory actually matters. Expanding your border lets you build further out, and cutting off an enemy's supply lines by taking their territory can cripple them without a single direct battle. That's a genuinely different way to think about RTS conflict. Resource management spans a wide range too. Food, timber, oil eventually, wealth, and juggling all of them while managing city happiness gives it real strategic depth beyond just building bigger armies. Nations themselves each get small bonuses reflecting real history. Nothing overwhelming, just enough flavor to make each playthrough feel distinct. The pacing moves briskly compared to a lot of 4X adjacent games, matches rarely drag. It's an ambitious hybrid, honestly, and it's a little underappreciated for how well it actually pulls that ambition off. Empire Earth has maybe the most absurd scope of anything on this list, honestly. We're talking 500,000 years of history condensed into one tech tree. And by the end of a match, you can genuinely be commanding an army of cavemen throwing rocks, and then, a few ages later, an army of bipedal robots with laser weapons. That escalation from Stone Age clubs to actual mechs is just wild to experience in a single playthrough. And it's not a gimmick either. Each epoch meaningfully changes your unit roster and strategy. 14 epochs total, and the Gold Edition folds in the Art of Conquest expansion, adding the Nano and Space Age content at the very top end. The scale does mean some ages feel a bit thinner than others. That's a fair criticism. Some epochs are basically transitional. But the ambition of spanning all of human history, prehistory through science fiction in one continuous game is still genuinely impressive. If you want the strangest tech tree journey of any RTS here, this one's got it. No contest.
Sehr gut. Your target? Of course, yeah. What sport?
If the Borg succeed in gaining a foothold here, they could strike any target within the Alpha Quadrant with...
Armada 2 lets you actually command starship fleets from across Star Trek, and that alone makes it stand apart from basically everything else on this list. 4 factions: Federation, Klingon, Romulan, and the Borg, and each one controls completely differently. Federation ships are balanced generalists, Borg ships assimilate enemy vessels outright and adapt to weapons fired against them over time, which is a genuinely clever bit of design tied straight to the lore. Ship customization goes deeper than you'd expect too. You're actually managing crew assignments and system upgrades on individual vessels, not just mass-producing generic units. Away team missions add a nice tactical wrinkle, beaming boarding parties onto enemy ships to disable systems or straight up capture them mid-battle. Space combat itself feels appropriately weighty. Ships maneuver and trade phaser fire with real momentum. Nothing feels twitchy or arcadey about it. It's a bit rough around the edges technically, this did release back in 2001, but for Star Trek fans specifically, the fleet command fantasy here is still unmatched by anything that's come since. Metal fatigue doesn't get talked about much, which is honestly a shame, because its core mechanic is genuinely unique among RTS games. You're not just building mechs, you're building them modularly, swapping out torsos, arms, and legs from salvaged parts to create custom combat robots suited to whatever fight you're walking into. Beyond that, mechs can actually combine mid-battle into these larger combiner units. Think Voltron, basically, fusing several robots into one much stronger machine on the fly. That combining mechanic adds this improvisational layer that most RTS games just don't have. You're constantly reassessing your loadout based on what parts you've scavenged. The campaign follows 2 rival factions with genuinely different design philosophies for their mech tech, and the missions lean into some fairly inventive scenarios for the era. It's rougher technically than the bigger budget titles here, no surprise. Smaller team, smaller budget, but the modular mech building alone makes it worth tracking down for any strategy fan into that fantasy. It's a genuine cult classic and deserves way more recognition than it actually got.
The Corpo Nation War began with 3 brothers.
Active War trades fantasy and sci-fi for grounded modern combat, and that shift in tone gives it a genuinely different feel compared to most of this list. You're commanding real-world military hardware, tanks, helicopters, infantry squads against a private paramilitary threat, and the combat has this gritty, almost tactical shooter energy layered onto standard RTS mechanics. Resource gathering is handled through a stock market-style oil trading system instead of the usual mining setup, which is a small twist, but it actually changes how you plan your economy early on. The live-action cutscenes are worth mentioning too. Real actors, a genuinely committed cast for an RTS of this era. It takes itself seriously without tipping into self-parody. Combat rewards careful positioning and combined arms tactics over just mass-producing one unit type and steamrolling. Infantry actually matter here. They can hijack enemy vehicles mid-fight if you play it right. It's not the flashiest entry on this list, sure, but the modern military setting and that grounded tone make it stand out from all the fantasy and sci-fi surrounding it.
Confirm that all of your men are in position.
Affirmative, sir.
You got nothing to worry about.
Paraworld is one of those games that just doesn't get mentioned enough, and honestly, it deserves a lot more attention than it got at release. The premise alone is fun. 3 tribes fighting across a prehistoric world where dinosaurs are just regular combat units, alongside your usual soldiers and siege weapons. Riding a raptor into battle or having a T-Rex flatten an enemy base is exactly as satisfying as it sounds. No exaggeration needed. Each tribe has a distinct visual identity, too. The Norsemen lean industrial and heavily armored, the Nomads feel more mystical and mobile, the Skarg are outright brutal in their aesthetic. Terrain plays a real tactical role. Hills and choke points matter, and the dinosaurs range from small scouting raptors up to massive siege-breaking beasts. It's got a slightly campy tone that fits the prehistoric premise well, doesn't take itself too seriously. Technically, it's a bit dated now. It came out back in 2006. But if you want dinosaurs smashing into medieval-ish armies, there's honestly nothing else quite like it. That's it for the list. Drop a comment with your favorite RTS franchise that you think belongs at the top of this list. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like the video. I honestly need all the help I can get with the algorithm. Thank you.